How's it going, everyone? This is Kevin. Today I want to bring along with me to show you a simple hack that will make your photos pop even more in Lightroom. So let's jump right into it. Today I want to do a little bit of a tutorial to show you how to make your photos pop even further after you've done all your corrections and color grade and everything in between, so that we can make those photos pop even more to increase your engagement and keep those numbers going up. Now, the method that I'm going to be teaching you is about the linear and radial gradients that you can use in Lightroom, even whether it's the newer version of it or the classic version as well. With this method that we're going to be using in Lightroom is going to help guide your viewer's eye into the sections that you want them to focus on the most. This will help them out to just basically engage and interact more with the photo itself and portray the imagery that you're wanting to portray through your photo, and that way the engagement can come along even more. So we're going to jump into my computer and I'm going to show you the method that I'm going to be using with the linear and the radiant gradients, just to show you what it can do with your photos and show you a little bit before and afters. So here we have the photo that we're going to work with, the first one. So this is the after edit, this is the before of what it looks like. So I've done my color grading and everything that I wanted into this photo. So now if you see up here, it says graduated filter and the radial filter. So both of these filters are basically a gradient that makes it be where you want to darken the certain sections, whether it's down below or if it's up high to add more light, whatever you want to add a soft gradient into that. So with these filters, for example, if I click the radial filter, I'll kind of just start adding a little bit of a circular thing right here. And if I hover right here over it, it'll show you what's affecting. Another method that you can do is simply just hitting O on your keyboard and it'll keep it on the whole time. Now, if you want to, you can go over here to invert it right there to only affect that section. Another shortcut will be hitting the quotations or the apostrophe just to go back and forth. So now that's kind of like the basics that you can do for any of the filters, even the brush itself. But that's basically it. So whenever you're done kind of like setting it up where you want it to be, well, this is the method that I tend to use. So I'll get the keyboard again just to kind of get it off, and then I would just go simply into the feathering. I'll just kind of go a little bit more into the 75 to maybe like 80 range, just so it doesn't affect it so harshly. That's why it's like a gradient, because it gradually makes it all the way through. If you go back to your days of working on paint back in school, depending how old you are, you would see like, oh, gradient for this to make the background like dark to light and so on and so forth. So let's pretend that I wanted to add a little bit of light. See how I can brighten that area up all the way or go down. So basically what I usually do is just go up just enough right there. Add a little bit of warmth because it was a sunny day, just to add a little bit of like a kind of like I guess if you will, golden hour time. And then I'll just start adding a little bit more of that just to kind of shift it around so that I can see what it looks like. So now this button right here says turn off radial filter. You can turn it off, turn it on to see how it looks. See what you like, what you don't like. See, you know what? I think that's pretty good. I'm gonna keep it right there. So now we're gonna go with the graduated filter. So see, I already have one right here, which I'm just gonna delete. And then I have this one right here that I had added for adding more of the kind of warmth, because if I take it off, you see how I already had something going on. But I wanted to show you that you can do that with the radial filter as well. So I'm just gonna move the graduated filter that I had there, and I'm gonna pretend I have a blank canvas after my color grade. So the next step will be is just to simply go ahead and space it up. And now you see those big spaces. You can either go shorter or longer, because that will just show you how basically how harsh the line will be. So if I hit that O, I can go a very harsh line or a gradual thing. So I usually try to expand it as much as possible. I'll hit O again, and then I'll start darkening it here as much as it naturally looks, because you don't want to go overly dark and just go bam. Well, that looks like poop. You don't want to be too dark on that end. So I usually bring it about like a stop down or so, and then I'll start kind of messing with it, see like, okay, do I want to be a little bit up here more so that it focuses more on this section of the photo? Don't want to lower this a little bit so I can bring this up more and it affects a darker part over here. So I can slowly but surely kind of darken it just enough, ever so slightly, maybe add a little bit of warmth because it was a sunny day like we said. And then I can show you the before and after. before and after. So let's pretend that I'm happy with that. I'll just hit done or close there, and then I'm gonna show you the before and after right here. That's the before photo, and this is the after, just to kind of bring that attention right in this section of me, because, well, that's the subject, right? So now let's move on to this other photo that I had taken of my wife. This is like a photo that we were just on our walk, and if I show you the before, this is the raw photo, and then that's the after. Edit color grade. I also have already the filters that I was wanting to use. Like if you see here, I already have this one set in place. So now if I go right there and I take it off, this is just darkening it to make you look basically towards her, because I don't want this bush that was in front of her to basically take away the attention from her, because she is the queen of the basically the sight to see, the piece of art. Obviously I can say that because she's my wife, so, and obviously any subject that you want to concentrate on would be the same thing. So let's pretend that I want to get rid of it. Boom. I would just do the same thing right here, keep it about there, and then just start messing with the settings over here. You know what, I want to darken this even more. Maybe bring down the highlights because it's got a little bit of the brush, got the sun going through. I'm gonna take down the black just to kind of darken it a little bit, and then space it out ever so slightly so that it's right there. Maybe move it up, and then I can show you the before after. So see how right there it just starts kind of drawing your eye into her versus focusing on this bush, because, well, if we go back to this, that bush is quite noticeable and your eyes are first gonna just draw themselves to there. So that's one of the reasons why you want to use these kind of filters, because it helps guide your viewer's eye into the prize. So now with this one, I added a radial filter for the sun. Since I did have a pro mist so that it would soften the light on her, not be a harsh like light on her, I wanted to expand that light a little bit. So if I show you what I did, I had it, that's the before, which is perfectly fine like that, but I wanted to add a little bit more, you know, oomph to the photo. I added just that glow because it was a sunny, nice and warm day, so I wanted to add a little bit of that golden kind of style hitting ever so slightly in her head. That's why I had the feather at 100%. Because if I wanted to bring it down, let's say like that, look how harsh that is, right? That feathering is just how harsh the line will be. So for this one, I just kept that at 100 and with my settings of that end. And that's pretty much the reasoning of that, just to kind of add that glow on the sky itself, because it was coming through the trees, so that it would just make the light itself better. So now let's pretend that I'm done with that. I would hit my done. And here is the before and here is the after. So this is a great method to just really bring that attention to detail when it comes down to your photo. Because if I were to basically get rid of all the stuff right here, I mean, it wouldn't be a bad photo like that, but look how much difference it goes just adding these back to back right there. It just brings it all the way through to get that attention to the subject itself right here in the middle, where she is basically the center of attention. So we're gonna move on to the last one right here that I wanted to touch base. This is just a simple kind of edit from like a just sky view, basically from a building that I took. The same thing happened right here. I'm gonna take away all the stuff that I added, you know, just basically so I can just reset it all. That way you can see what I would have done from the start. So basically, let's start with the radial filter. What I usually try to do when it comes down to like a golden hour kind of set is focus where the sun is coming from, which was over here, and it was going towards the building. So I tend to just kind of go across as much as possible and then just expand it. Now I'll go over here to the feathering and kind of add maybe like 82 to start with, and then I'll just start bumping this up. Oh, gotta go invert because you want to invert it. So you see it right there, it's inverted. I just hit the keyboard shortcut, the quotations mark. So what I do there is just start kind of bringing it up where it's not like overly bright that you're like, well, you lost the quality, but just enough with the exposure. Maybe bring up the shadows a little bit to not lose as much quality, and a little bit of the blacks, and then start adding that warmth to it to see, okay, you know what, I want it right about maybe less because it just looks too orange, and that should be kind of fine. Let's pretend. So now I'm gonna add more feathering, just because if I start taking it off, boom, right? So there was a building right here that you can barely see, so that was kind of obstructing some of the sun, but then right here the sun would be hitting it to the side, maybe not so much here. So let's pretend that I want to erase a little part of this so that it doesn't affect it. within the mask right here, you can hit brush, and it'll give you this nice little brush that you can either add or take away. So if I hit O again, it'll show me what it's hitting. And if I hit Alt on my computer, if you have a PC, I think it's Option on a Mac, you can just basically, I usually try to keep it as feathered as possible because I don't want it to like hit too much, and just kind of slowly but surely start taking it off. You know, like, yeah, and then adding back a section or two here and there, you know, whatever needs to be done. So then I hit the O, and then I'll just do ever so slightly start adding that part to keep it the same, because that would be a little bit of the back of the building. You don't want to be obviously brightening that up too much, since, well, it didn't need to be brightened up. Same thing you can apply to certain parts over here if you wanted to, but this is just for the sake of the tutorial itself to be as quick as possible for you guys to learn. So now let's pretend I'm happy with that. Now I'll go back to the graduated filter just to bring that attention to more of the buildings themselves than to the not so pretty part of the top of these buildings over here. So I would just add a little graduated filter and start darkening the areas that I want to darken so that your eye comes over here. Maybe even add one on this angle like that, but then obviously push it back so it's not too like harshly dark, which a lot of people will say, oh, why don't I just use vignetting on the settings that you can do like down here? Well, the main reason why I say no is because you can control it a lot easier with the graduated filter and the radial filters themselves here. So if you add that gradient basically with the graduated gradients and linear gradients and stuff like that, the reason I like to call them that is because one of them is a linear, the other one is a radial one. So it just makes it easier for me because they're gradients in a sense where they're not just a filter, right? So that gradient where it's like heavy to softness, we'll just basically graduate it like basically over here to see slowly but surely. So let's pretend that I'm happy with that. I can just go ahead and hit OK, and now this is the before, and now this is the after. Before, after. You can even go back to your settings over here. You know what? I want to add a little bit of coolness to it, maybe a little bit of the tint here, and then maybe add a little bit more of the shadows right there because it wasn't as whatever you want to, and then you could just go ahead and export them and then be done with these edits. And those are basically the steps that I take to make sure my photos pop more on Lightroom whenever I'm trying to put them out to social media. I think with these methods, using the linear and the radial kind of gradient filters that you can get really helps pop more of your photo into the viewer's eye, just so that they're more inclined to engage with it and like it a lot more, just to get that interaction that can help you grow on social media. This method is really great if you want to make sure the center of attention is where you want it to be, so that nobody misses the beat when it comes down to your photo and what you're trying to portray in each shot that you post, and you know, get that basically money shot to the audience that you're trying to reach and they see your message clearly. So hopefully this will be helpful for you. Make sure to tag me in your photos if you tend to use this method. I would love to check out your work. Here are my social medias again for Instagram and Twitter, so go ahead and give that follow there if you want to, and we can say hello and I can check out your work and see what you're up to. But with all that said and done, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like and subscribe, share this video with a friend. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.